So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So we've gone through Proverbs 8 and 9, which gives us a lot of insight into things that happened before the beginning, right? That's I call the pre-creation, because these things happened before the creation. Not that anything could happen before the creation, but it does, right? Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding all were there as the first of the things that God acquired rather than created. Yeah, we went over this last time. Right? Koneh, we acquired. Different than any of the words for creating things. Okay, and the implication is that it wasn't created. It was just there. The whole point is that there was a whole bunch of stuff prior to the creation itself, and now so we have some background in that. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and the 7 pillars of wisdom. We have some understanding of their characteristics. And so now let's begin back in Genesis 1:1. Now we can begin with the creation, knowing that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's already there. Right? Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, the 7 pillars. So we begin Genesis 1. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So we have the summary statement. Okay, at the head of things, Bereshit, bara Elohim, God created from nothing. Bara, it means created, but it means created from nothing. Scholars call it fiat creation, which has nothing to do with a small Italian automobile. It means there was nothing, then there was something. God created it. And what did he create? The tashamayim ve'ta'aretz, the heavens, always plural, and the earth. So there was already pre-creation. And now God begins the process of the creation of what? What is different? What's being created that isn't there in pre-creation? The answer is time and space. And a separation between non-time and space and time and space. Okay? Hashamayim, outside of time and space. Aretz, time and space. Aretz haita tohu vavohu. The earth was, and we get various and assorted translations here, empty and chaos. Empty and chaos. V'choshech al panei tahom, and darkness is on the face of the deep. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim, and the Spirit of God brooded over the face of the water. Mayim sounds plural, but it has the same form for plural and singular. So it brooded over the face of the waters, or brooded over the face of the water, can be translated either way. So this was the condition that everything existed prior to God creating. So he gives us a blanket statement. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was empty and chaos. Now, had he created the earth yet? Okay, so what is this talking about? The earth was empty and chaos. What does that mean? Well, it's still not formed the way he's going to finally form it. It means it's not talking about the planet. It's talking about time and space. So, yeah, you're right. It's going to get organized. It's not organized yet. It is empty and chaos. It's about as far away from being organized as you can possibly get. And there was darkness on the face of the deep. So darkness existed, and the deep existed. And what is that? And there's no way to tell from the text. But whatever it was, it's deep. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim, and the Spirit of God brooded over the face of the water. So there was water. I didn't know that until then. There was already water. Had anything been created yet? No, but water was there. So isn't water part of pre-creation? Water would be some of what was acquired by God before the beginning. And what does that mean? That comes into play later a lot. But we haven't ever gotten to it yet.
Yeah.
And the Spirit of God, the Ruach of God, rooted on the face of the water. So God had a Ruach. Right, and that's a mistranslation. It says the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's a Jewish translation is trying to stay as far away from Christian theology as it possibly can.
Yeah.
But it does say Ruach Elohim. It doesn't say Ruach Melohim,
Right.
which would be from God.
From God, yeah.
So we see this word Ruach for the first time. Need to understand that in Hebrew there is no word that means soul. There is no word that means spirit. There are 5 different words, all meaning something different, that are each translated as either soul or spirit, depending on the translator. Okay? This is one of them. So we say the Spirit of God, we have no idea what we're saying. If we say Ruach Elohim, then we know what we're talking about. Ruach. It's one of these 5 words. Okay, you're identifying, but tell me what the Holy Spirit is. Okay, we don't know yet. Okay, from looking at this, rather than stick a label on it and say, "Aha, we're done," we're not going to do that. We're going to explore what the text says, and then we'll come up with understanding. When you just label things, right? What happens is you really gain no understanding. Because you're satisfied, well, I know what that is because I know what the label is. Here's the label. Beep. What is it? Well, I have no idea, but that's the label. You know, it's like you pick up the tomatoes and the can of tomatoes and say, aha, it's tomatoes, put it back. Now, without ever looking inside to see what tomatoes are. And so the Spirit of God, Ruach Elohim, brooded on the face of the water. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayhi or. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. So, here's an act of creation. So what was the first thing that God created?
Light.
Wrong, but thank you for playing. No. What's the first thing that God did here? Look at this sentence very carefully. God said, Vayomer Elohim, let there be light. So before he could say, let there be light, Hebrew had to exist. Okay, what did he say? Vayomer Elohim, yehi or. So the alphabet had to exist. Hebrew as a language had to exist. All of the letters of the Hebrew language. This is the first act of creation, is the creation of the Hebrew language. People say, you have heard it said,
Yes.
right? But I say, seriously, you got to take those things that people have filled your head with and leave it at the door. You have to empty your cup. You must unlearn what you have learned. Okay? So the first thing created was the Hebrew language. So why did God create the Hebrew language? No. Look at the text. Don't kind of pull something out of the air. The reason he created language was to affect creation. God used language to create. Think about it. God could have, did his nose like Samantha Stevens and the universe. He could have. What he did was he spoke, Vayomer Elohim. He said, let there be light. This is something very, very important to understand because the speaking, the language that he used was a tool that God used to affect creation. And this is the way he structured it. There's something very, very special about the Hebrew language that God used it as a tool to create. Is there light without the Hebrew language? The answer is no. God used language, Hebrew language specifically, to create. So at that instant, before the light, God had created language, and he had acquired before wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and the 7 pillars, including judgment and mercy and eternal nature of God and the majesty of God and the beauty of God, the foundation of God, and the kingdom of God. All of that existed before even the Hebrew language existed. Then he created bara, created the Hebrew language. Now we're ready to go. So he said, let there be light, and there was light. Yehi or, vayhi or. He said, let there be light, and so there's light. So we've got the 22 letters of the alphabet. We've got the 10 emanations of God, right? Wisdom, knowledge, understanding, all of those, and the 7 pillars. So that's 10. So that's 32. These are the building blocks of creation. Through these, God creates everything. Okay, so we call it the 32 paths. Vayar Elohim et ha'or, and God saw the light, kitov, that it is good. Vayavdel Elohim bein ha'or uven ha'choshech. And then God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, yom. Darkness he called night, choshech laila. There was evening and morning one day. Okay? So when does day start? Evening, sunset. That's why we count days from sunset. That's why Shabbat begins on a Friday evening. Every day begins on an evening. Yom echad, one day. Does not say the first day. It says one day. How come? There's no guarantee at this point there's going to be a second day. Could have been it. So we have light and we have darkness. We have water. Now tell me about this light. What do we know about this light? Yeah, we actually know a lot. Okay, well, you don't know much yet.
Well, we know it didn't come from a sun.
Right.
There, what's the source of the light? What's the source of light? It's unknown, which is a problem. Because all of the light that we know has a known source. You step outside and look up, it tends to be bright. There's a source of the light. In here, there's a source of the light. We've got these beautiful, flattering fluorescent light bulbs. Okay? So the point is here that we have light and there's no source. Is this the light that we use? No. All the light that we know about has a source, right? You extinguish the source, flip the light switch, and guess what? You got darkness. You don't have light. God created light. Was it separate from the darkness? At first it wasn't. What does that mean when they're both there? The way you make sense of it is not by reading the text and saying, well, that doesn't make sense. It must mean this. Okay? That's not how we do it. What we're doing takes a little more work, but we're going to get there. So the whole point is we've got light with no source. We've got darkness that existed prior, okay? And they are not separated. It's very difficult for us to kind of conceive. The only way that you could really get a grasp of this is with mathematics.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we can think about it or speak of it poetically, right? We can use analogies, knowing that they're wrong, but they're kind of giving us an idea, right? And that's about it. That's about as good as we can get. So we begin the second day here. God said, let there be a firmament in the middle of the waters and let it divide the waters from the waters. And the word used here is rakia, and they translated firmament. And let this barrier divide the waters from the water. God made the barrier, the firmament, and divided the waters. We already knew that. The waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And so God called the firmament heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. Okay. Called the firmament, basically everything on one side of the barrier. It's called Shemayim. the heavens. And on the other side of the barrier, what do we got? The earth. So here, God separates the heavens and the earth. What's the difference between the heavens and the earth? Well, that's the separation. But what's the main difference between the composition of the two?
One has time.
Time and
Time,
space.
Space and not no time.
Okay. So the firmament is the barrier between the realms outside of time and space and the realms within time and space. End of story.
So
But the whole
that's-
point is, got the barrier, and on one side of the barrier now is the realm that is beyond time and space. The other side of the barrier is the realm that is time and space. That's what the firmament is. Right? Time and space, that's the world that we work in here. That's Haaretz, the earth. The Shemayim is beyond time and space. There's no time or space. We're dealing with time and space here, but in the heavens, they don't deal with time and space. The whole idea of things being outside of time and space is very difficult for us to think about, and language does not help. Language forces us into trying to put things into a time and space perspective. It's not helpful. So it's not that somebody dies here and then they're with God. They're always with God. C.S. Lewis talked about it. Said that we are souls that happen to have bodies, not the other way around. So the idea is that we are with God. Right now, always have been, always will be. I knew you before you were in the womb. Right? Why? Because the majority of our existence is not within time and space. As people, the majority of our existence is outside of time and space, in the heavens with God. Now we got a little piece of us that's here, experiencing time and space, which is vitally important to the universe. So while we're thinking about
we're
this,
with him now.
right, what happens when we die? The answer is not a lot,
No.
right? The majority of who we are is with God, still be with God. What happens is that within time and space, that which is us within time and space is gone. But most of who you are is still with God. There's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and the yechida.
Yeah.
And they all mean something different. And we haven't gotten there yet, so don't
not
look
yet.
like, I'm not expecting you to know what these things are yet.
Yeah.
Right?
We just.
We are all
unaware.
as believers, we're all in God's presence.
Yeah.
Period. Always have been, always will be. It takes a little getting used to, but we are with God right now. We were with God, we will be with God, we're with God. Why? Because outside of time and space, which is the majority of our existence, there's no time. So it's not that you're away from God and then, there's no and then. You're already there. Look, if you don't believe in God, how could you be with God? What's unique about our existence within time and space is that we're on this path. There is no path beyond time and space. There's just it just is. Right? So we can't think of it in those terms. And indeed, that's why the universe is set up this way, so that we can have time and space and have a path. Right? Mitzvot, God's commandments, only have meaning within time and space. It's the only way you can do them. You know? Well, love my neighbor as myself. I can give charity. Right? I can come to synagogue in time and space. Outside of time and space, those things, it doesn't have meaning. We can choose God within time and space. Outside of time and space, there's no choice because there's no time and there's no space.